Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with episode 748 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to talk all things NXT and AEW, but not only that, we will briefly dip our toe into WWE Evolve and provide you with a not so ultimate, but nevertheless a preview of WWE AAA Worlds Collide, a special show airing on Saturday before WWE Money in the Bank. Speaking of Money in the Bank, our ultimate preview for that premium live event is already in the podcast feed, awaiting your ear holes. It is, of course, performance-enhancing audio from the Silver King and vintage Chris Vanini, a full breakdown of the week in WWE, and of course, specifically, an ultimate preview for WWE Money in the Bank. Just like in this episode, in that episode, there are timestamps in the description, so you can jump right to the Money in the Bank ultimate preview if you happen to be listening Friday or Saturday right before the show. But I always hope you listen to the entire WWE Weekly Breakdown, just like I hope you listen to the entirety of our NXT and AEW show today. Off the top, let me remind you that you can subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You get full-length audio episodes, full-length video interviews for every conversation that we have in 2025, and clips of past interviews as well, again, on YouTube at Getting Overcast. And don't forget to follow us on social media, at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can also send in questions and comments for the show. We will do our best to read them on the air. And around premium live events, pay-per-views, and special events, we post pre- and post-show polls on Twitter at Getting Overcast. You have the ability to vote in those polls, and we will use your opinions in our instant analysis episodes. Speaking of instant analysis episodes, we will be back on Saturday with your WWE Money in the Bank and WWE AAA Worlds Collide instant analysis. We're going to do it in one show on Saturday, episode 749, because next Tuesday, right here at Getting Over, episode 750, and you heard our breakdown of that on Tuesday's program. We're excited to bring all of this to you as both WWE and AEW are just completely loading up their schedules this summer going into the fall. As mentioned, we have a ton to discuss today. This is the order of operations for episode 748. We're going to start talking NXT, briefly move into a little WWE Evolve. Then we will have your WWE AAA Worlds Collide preview. And then on the back end, we'll be talking not 2, not 4, but 6 hours of AEW, last week's Collision, and the entirety of AEW Fyter Fest from Wednesday. So as I mentioned, there are timestamps in the episode description. You can't stick around. I truly hope you listen to the entire show. Kicking off with NXT. The TNA Championship was on the line in the main event. Trick Williams defending against Mike Santana. Williams cut a promo backstage saying Santana is the standard of TNA, proud Boricua, but the standard has changed and wrestling Trick is the biggest match of his career. He's the guy TNA has been hoping would lead that brand for 20 years. This was maybe Trick's best backstage promo to date. When you couple that with his in-ring segment last week, he feels fully formed as a character. The only area where he still needs improvement is in-ring. Santana backstage was excited about main eventing a WWE show for a major title, but he said that he's focused on beating Williams, a pretender who is fighting for nobody but himself. Santana said he's fighting for everyone who has ever graced the TNA ring and his baby girl at home. If Santana is not in WWE at the end of his TNA contract, I will be completely shocked. He has impressed me beyond any expectation I have ever had for him seeing this singles run. So big ups to him. Elijah dapped up Santana from the crowd before the bell. Energy was high at the main event start, with Santana hitting a big tope con hero. Williams landed the trick kick, which is basically a boot-style Trouble in Paradise. So now this powerful dude, his two signature moves are a kick and a pump knee. I cannot stand it, man. It is so dumb.
Come on, Oos. It's a joke, right? It's a joke, Oos. You ripping me?
There was an exciting back and forth of offense between the two guys until Santana caught Williams jumping for a Death Valley driver. He added a rolling cutter and a 450 for two false finishes. The second, a perfect fingertip rope break. Trick grabbed and broke Elijah's guitar just to create some chaos ringside. AJ Francis and I want to say their name is Casey Navarro. Someone else from TNA jumped in, choke slamming Santana into the announce table. Williams rolled him back inside, landed Trick shot to the back and front of his head to get the 1-2-3 and retain the title. This was a hell of a main event. One of Trick's best singles matches against someone not named Ilya Dragunov. Along with the Joe Hendry match, it's clear that he has needed time to work with veterans, and we've been saying that for the past year, just to level up his in-ring, and it seems like it's finally happening. The booking winner is expected, other than the fact that I have no idea whether Francis and the person, I think, again, Navarro, helping him makes any sense in TNA storytelling, because I have no way to watch those shows, so big shrug from the Silver King. But it was the necessary result with Trick winning, Santana getting screwed so they can build the rematch for TNA Slammiversary in New York. And that is exactly what's going to happen coming out of this. They'll probably do some tags along the way, go one-on-one. Maybe there'll be a stipulation in that match, and Santana will win the TNA title off of Trick in New York City. This was, or I guess it's not New York City, it's a UBS Arena. You get the point. The rightful main event for the show, despite what else happened on NXT Tuesday night, another positive step for Williams, the continuation of a really intriguing title reign that spans two different companies, plenty of protection for Santana in the loss. It's exactly what you wanted and needed coming out of the show. And it's kind of insane how over Santana has been in WWE. So again, really good for him both in the short term and in the long term. Now, the moment that, of course, everyone is talking about from NXT occurred in a women's segment, which is certainly not surprising given the state of the women's division in NXT. JC Jane with Fatal Influence hit the ring for her championship celebration. There was a great video package preceding this, but I will say, I simply do not understand how some of you younger people who listen to this show watch these, I don't know what you call them, reaction influencers. It is the most performative shit I have ever seen in my life. Like screaming at the top of your lungs while watching something relatively normal happen on television in front of you. But I digress. Jane got plenty of heat cutting a promo on the fans for being fickle and never supporting her, saying she was the only one not shocked because she's been grinding while everyone else locked into the flavor of the month in NXT. Jane stressed that she and Fallon Henley came into the industry together. They decided it was the time to run the play for the slap heard around the world. Someone named Lainey Reed, who frankly, I have never seen before, and I watch a lot of WWE programming, jumped out of the crowd saying she doesn't want to wait her turn because JC is the most beatable champion of all time. And I actually loved that line, even if I didn't know who this person was. Lola Vice, Jordan Grace, notably, Jada Parker, Kalani, Jordan, Lash, Legend all came out in succession. Parker called herself the baddest bitch. Legend pointed out everyone's had their turn except her, which is kind of true. Thea Hale then attacked out of nowhere. Everyone brawled except Fatal Influence and Reed, who just, I guess, stood there and decided not to get involved. And suddenly, as they're all brawling, the lights go out, they come back on, and Mariah May is standing in the crow's nest saying she was ready to join the best women's division in the world and make it a lot more glamorous. Well, that was unexpected. Holy cow. This segment was crazy. It really took me through a range of emotions, going from incredibly impressed with JC to incredibly confused about why this Laney person was even there, to a bit bored with the repetitive 5-second promos, to utterly shocked that Mariah debuted so quickly after leaving AEW. I knew her contract was ending. I did not realize she was completely free and clear. And we had been told previously, I think we put this on the buymeacoffee.com/gettingover last week. There was an expectation she would debut next month at or around WWE Evolution. So getting her in June on NXT was a shocker. As was the case with the Ricky Saints debut, her name was not uttered and WWE did not use it on social media. So it's fair to assume she'll be Mariah with a different last name. Mariah March, Mariah Might, Mariah Mayday. It's also fair to assume this is going to be a shortish jaunt in NXT, as was the case with Dragon Lee, Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, perhaps Saints and Jordan as well. Though it was surprising to see Grace in this segment, given she lost to Stephanie last weekend. We theorized she might get called up alongside the other three. Perhaps that's not happening immediately. Also, for Saints, we'll talk about it a little bit later, they did an injury update for him, which you normally would not do if you're using an injury to write someone off and call them up to the main roster. Now, Mariah didn't really do much here, but the star quality was apparent. She's keeping the glamour gimmick, and it was an awesome surprise in this women's division for the second week in a row. I mean, you had the title change, and now you have a huge debut which makes the title change and the immediate call-ups make even more sense. I'm not necessarily like a massive fan of Mariah May. I respect the talent and the character work, no doubt about it. I just don't have a soft spot for her like I do, let's say, with Io Sky, right? Or Asuka, or some of these other women that I had watched independently and then seen come through the WWE system. With Mariah, obviously, I watched her in AEW, and I certainly knew a little of her from Stardom, saw a couple matches, but it wasn't like with, just as an example, Io or Dakota Kai or some of these people that I actually knew before they started in WWE. So I'm really curious as a viewer to see if she wins me over during this NXT transition, where I go from like respecting her and thinking she does great work to actually caring about her as a performer. I did forget to mention a little bit that JC looked great with the title. Like, it looked like it belonged on her shoulder. And as I said, she did a great job on the mic, carried herself like a main event champion. Nothing felt the least bit off with her holding the strap. Fallon stands similarly and would wear it quite well if she was given an opportunity. But this was very much a specific type of segment that we have seen in professional wrestling before.
Yep.
Grand opening, grand closing, goddamn you, man-ho, crack the can open again. In other words, Jane is not long for that title with Mariah around. Maybe that's the match for Evolution. That could make sense along with what we were told. Maybe it wasn't her debuting there, it's her winning the title there. We were told it was going to be a big moment for Mariah May at Evolution, and the perception from what we were told was that she was debuting there. But yeah, she could win the title at Evolution, compete in the Royal Rumble, get called up in 7 to 10 months, either after the Rumble or WrestleMania. She's only 26 years old, so there's no huge rush given all the recent star power ads and all the fresh faces on the main roster. And for those wondering why she didn't debut immediately on Raw or SmackDown, number one, you cannot just endlessly add people to one division. You got to spread out debuts like this. Two, the vast majority of talent historically has started in NXT. The Bloodline additions, the Lucha Brothers and Jade Cargill, and dating back, obviously, AJ Styles, those are like the true exceptions to the rule. If Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, etc. can all start, Asuka, Io Sky, if they can all start in NXT, Mariah May can as well. She's going to be on the main roster sooner than later. I promise you. Oba Femi and Jasper Troy went face-to-face backstage, with Jasper pointing out he's the first guy Oba actually has to look up to. Femi never diverted his gaze, signed the contract. Nothing else on this. Troy was pretty solid speaking, and for a new call-up, having that kind of confidence, that was notable.
He don't want no water. He don't want no bread. All he wants is meat.
There's going to be a lot of beef out there when these guys fight.
There's a lot of beef out here.
Miles Bourne fought Charlie Dempsey in a rounds match. The setup for this was awesome, with Tavian Heights and Ren Sinclair respectively walking the competitors through gorilla position, and all four of them came together to make one group entrance as NQCC. Dempsey controlled round one, but Bourne stole a point with a pinning combination in the final seconds. Dempsey delivered a cheap shot at the round two bell, immediately hit the Regal Plex to even it up in round three. They exchanged really nice pinning combinations in the fourth round, including a bridge turned into a jackknife by Dempsey, but Bourne escaped and literally beat Dempsey 1-2-3 with a dropkick. Bourne is now free from NQCC after this. Dempsey refused to shake his hand after the bell. I legitimately cannot remember the last time a dropkick won a match. The booking here was appropriate, but it surprised me that Dempsey basically got nothing. Not even the middle fall was actually earned by him. I figured it'd be much more even with Bourne squeaking by, but Dempsey still looking strong. This obviously leaves a lot of questions about the future of NQCC. Bourne and Heights would obviously have been a great tag team. That's clearly not happening. Perhaps Dempsey tags with Heights, but Heights may want out as well, and he could really work as singles on his own. Beyond both those guys, Sinclair has not been elevated the way she needs to be in this division. So I am extremely curious to see the fallout, not just for Bourne and Dempsey, but the other two as well. Really the best thing for Dempsey, and people don't really talk about this, but it would be for WWE to keep him signed, but loan him over to Japan. Have him go there for like 2 or 3 years, have a long run as a gaijin, become a main eventer over there, return to WWE as an upper mid-carder, and just roll. His booking has really not made much sense in 2025 for a guy that they see as a serious part of this roster. And Ren should be a fixture of the women's mid-card right now. I know she does comedy stuff, and you can say, well, she's like the new Chelsea Green. Maybe, but she's a way better wrestler in ring, bell to bell, than Chelsea is. And it's great that she has those comedic chops, but she can also be serious. And she's actually talented between the ropes. Let her show that. I don't understand why they're not. So she and Heights, they did a great job here, almost acting as like siblings running between their parents, trying to make both of them happy during the match. But despite both of them having great personalities, like I said, I want to see what they can actually do. It's great that the women's division is so strong, particularly the upper card now with all the people that showed up trying to challenge for the main title. That makes sense. But the mid card, it needs these names. It needs Tatum Paxley challenging and winning the title. It needs Ren Sinclair challenging and winning the title. And it's just surprising to me why they went so long with Kalani Jordan as the challenger or the champion. And I don't see them kind of going to some of these women. Like Sol Ruka is the champion. She's obviously working with Zarya. They're teammates right now. Clearly that's going to split. Zarya is going to turn heel and challenge, and I would assume win the title at that point. Does Sol just have to stay around the mid-card, or can she get, moved up to the main event? But they got to get Paxley and Ren Sinclair involved. They are the two most talented women on this brand with the greatest gap between their talent and their usage. And it's getting frustrating as a weekly viewer. Speaking of Tatum, Isley Dame backstage struck Brooks Jensen in the back with a chair, telling the calling that Jensen was never fully bought in and committed. Plus, she got their planned match moved to next week. Yeah, it's kind of weird to do it that way. If Yoshiki and Amora had not returned, I would have guessed that move was reforming the tag team with Josh Briggs. But Inamura is back, and they're still teaming. So the only thing that came to mind is Jensen either has a long-term injury and got written off, or he's getting released, and it was a write-off for that. This was extremely random with no real setup. I guess we'll find out sooner than later. I would hate for my assumption to be the worst-case scenario, but I'd bet he got released. I've been talking about this since the 2.0 switch. Never really made significant progress. Was clearly the B-side with Brooks. Was clearly the guy with the lowest ceiling in the calling. It just feels like this has been in the cards for a while due to his lack of upside. So I hope I'm wrong, but we've been talking about it for 2 years right here on the show. Zaruka found Tatum Paxley still depressed backstage, again telling her that they had her back. Izzy butted in again, saying there was no path with Zaruka, but because she's willing to purge anyone who's not a true friend, she and the calling would be a better fit. I get the booking concept. I am not sure there is a single person watching NXT Weekly who wants Tatum with the calling, even temporarily. It feels like a go-nowhere situation for Paxley when, I will repeat probably for the third time on this episode, she should be competing and winning that North American Championship. She and Ren are stars, and this is just a waste of their ability. Luca Crucifino again approached Tony D'Angelo, asking why he had not reached out to him. Crucifino said he's going to prove his loyalty to D'Angelo by getting them booked in a tag team match against High Rise. The idea being that they get to retaliate against the guys that Stax paid to attack D'Angelo. Tony D continuing to distrust Luca. That obviously makes sense, but not letting him get a word in edgewise anytime they're together is kind of annoying. It certainly feels like this is going to be a situation where Crucifino feeds D'Angelo to the Wolves and then links up with Stax. I cannot imagine any other booking scenario that would make sense, but we'll see what happens next week. Chase U fought Dark State. The heels attacked at the bell. Saquon Sugars, the guy with the highest upside of the 7 in this match, was the only one not competing. Fans chanted, "We want truth" for 5 or 10 seconds, then went quiet. Dark State won rather easily, hitting their toss powerbomb. This faction works together well. I've already talked about that they have one outlier, and it's kind of weird. But as a group, they have gone absolutely nowhere since debuting. Everyone watching expected a hook where someone, whether it was Obafemi, Javon Evans, or Trick Williams, was going to wind up being their leader. That never happened. They have no goal. They have no direction. You would think that they would be going after the tag team titles at a minimum, especially given the current tag team champions, to quote, what was that, her name, Laney? To quote Laney, are the most beatable NXT tag team champions in years. It's Hank and Tank. Dark State should be squashing them, embarrassing them, flexing their muscles, and becoming the new tag team champions, running roughshod over that division at a minimum. I know that it has been a wild run of shows, and a lot of stuff has taken up TV time with the titles changing and the angles with TNA and AAA and everything that's happening. I get it. But it is either time to move or pack it in with Dark State, because they're in stasis right now. They're just hanging out, doing nothing. And it's like, where were the guys that attacked Obafemi twice and went after Javon Evans and ran roughshod over this brand? Now they're just chilling, doing tag team matches, and that's it. It doesn't fit together. It doesn't make sense. Tyra May Steele was backstage excited about winning LFG when Ariana Grace stood up, saying she's won way more than her at beauty pageants. Grace told Steele no one likes braggers, and obviously this led to a match between them. Grace, she's been working in TNA regularly alongside her dad, Santino Marella, but I have been missing her in NXT, so it was great to see her. Steele was more polished and comfortable speaking than I had seen her at any point previously, so I thought that was a big positive coming out of the backstage segment. So we had Steele against Grace. Tyra's music, I don't get it. It's really ill-fitting for her, but I mean, that was known because we've seen her previously. She beasted as expected, throwing Ariana all around the ring and winning with a German suplex bridge. I would have liked to have seen a finisher, but I suppose that can wait. And if memory serves, I think Kurt Angle started with the German suplex as his finisher. So maybe she'll eventually go to the Olympic Slam like he did, or her own similar finisher down the line. What was great about Steele is how she went from happy-go-lucky during her entrance to deadly serious while wrestling, and then happy again about 15 seconds after her arm got raised. It was almost like a Jekyll and Hyde type of deal, like the Winter Soldier almost, where like something snaps when the bell rings and then it snaps again when the other bell rings. I love that for her. And I think that's a great gimmick to go along with her Olympian persona. I've been rooting for her since she cut that promo at the Olympics about loving WWE. I was then dismayed to find out some of the stuff she believes in personally, but that's off screen. On screen, she has a seriously high ceiling. If she can put it all together, it could be a pretty quick rise in NXT. Stevie Turner spoke with Callie Armstrong, the inaugural Evolve Women's Champion, and other women on the show, basically saying that what they saw in the women's segment earlier is the big time. Callie basically asked which of those women would step up to her like the other women stepped up to JC. I know WWE needs to promote Evolve. This felt really shoehorned into NXT. They fit so much into 2 hours that putting Evolve people on the show, it actively detracts from the roster that actually exists and needs TV time. I know I'm quibbling over like 30 seconds here, but it's been multiple weeks in a row where they're shoving Evolve and LFG talent on the show, not the people that win and get called up. I'm talking about just others. And it's like, okay, it's great. And many times it works and it fits together. But at the same time, what about everyone else that is not getting on screen that's in NXT? So that can kind of take us and transition us into an extremely brief breakdown of WWE Evolve, which is necessary because the brand crowned its first men's champion Wednesday after Callie won the women's title last week. The show started with Natty in her independent look, saving Armstrong from a 2-on-1 attack by Zeta Steele and Nikita Lyons, who both want to be number one contenders. Callie again disrespected Natty, which is interesting because why would she disrespect her? There's no establishment in terms of why. And it's also interesting that Natty is using one gimmick on the main roster and another in Evolve and Independence. It doesn't really fly for me. I mentioned that on Tuesday's show. Let Natty be this new, whatever it is, this underground legend type of gimmick. Let her do this on the main roster also. So the men's championship was decided. Idris Enofe, Sean Legacy, Keanu Carver, and Jackson Drake in a 4-way elimination match. Carver was the only one of the 4 that actually delivered on his promo. Javon Evans randomly dapped up Jordan Oasis in the parking lot. He explained he was presenting the title to the winner of this match. Carver took out Enofe almost immediately, which was a shocker. In another even bigger surprise, Drake hit the unaliving like a Claymore knee, and Legacy added a 450 with a double pin to take out Carver. Let me make clear right now, the unaliving is a terrible finisher name. It is all-time bad for multiple different reasons. Legacy hit a second rope Spanish fly and a 450 for a false finish. Drake escaped shambles, hit a swanton bomb plus a springboard cutter. Legacy came back with an STF for a long delayed rope break. Legacy countered ejection into shambles, only to eat a pump knee and unaliving for an absolutely stunning result to me, with Jackson Drake becoming the first Evolve men's champion. Seriously came out of nowhere for this viewer. Carver or Legacy, they seemed like no-brainers. I presume Legacy is getting the NXT call-up, so that's why they didn't choose him. But Carver not winning it, and instead a guy who has lost already on Evolve a couple times getting it, I just did not see that happening at all. It was a really nice moment for Drake, who apparently has known Evans for a while, so they hugged after he was handed the title. That was pretty cool. It was an extremely solid match as well. Probably one of the 3 or 4 best so far in like 13 or 14 episodes of Evolve. So that was all positive. I was just shocked that they chose this guy as the first champion. Wesley and High Rise were on the show, with Wes ranting about his success and how he's not done yet. He called himself the gatekeeper, saying wrestlers would have to beat him to make it to NXT. Cappuccino Jones and Jack Cartwheel came out wanting an opportunity. I know there's not much right now for Wes on main NXT, but having him be an Evolve gatekeeper, it feels like a big-time fall from grace. Jin Tala, who flashed a lot of star quality on WWE LFG, beat Carly Bright in her debut. Bright sold an injury. It was kind of a convoluted armbar that Jin used to win. And that really wraps up Evolve. Like I said, it was going to be fast, but I did want to mention the inaugural champion. In terms of NXT, it was a really crazy episode, especially if you think about all the details that went into it. Not only did they have all their talent on the show, there was a TNA title match, AAA wrestlers, people from LFG and Evolve, a debut coming from AEW. If Rey Fenix had made the show, as seemingly planned, but maybe that was kayfabe, they'd have run the gamut with someone from the main roster as well. So that was a lot to pack into 2 hours, and we're not even done breaking it down because some of what happened on NXT helped promote WWE and AAA Worlds Collide. But before we get into that, I need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
It's all about the fight.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating. On Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And please don't forget, if you are a Spotify listener, hit the 5 stars. It is just as important over there, which is our source of our most growth right now. In terms of listenership, we need those 5 stars on Spotify. Even if you listen to us on Apple or YouTube or wherever else, get the Spotify app. You don't even have to log in or create an account or anything, I don't think. Just hit the 5-star button next to our podcast. We'd greatly appreciate it. Now, let's talk WWE AAA Worlds Collide semi-ultimate preview. There was no build for Worlds Collide on Raw, and only one match actually got previewed on NXT. My expectation is we see more on SmackDown this Friday, specifically for the Legado del Fantasma match, but we'll do our best to preview and kind of set the stage for these bouts. With me admitting off the top that when it comes to the AAA wrestlers, a lot of them I just don't know, and I can't really give you much insight outside of what my overall take is on the way the card is built and who I expect to win each match. So we'll go over each match best we can, and we'll give some predictions and analysis. Of course, I'll give you an expectation grade at the end, and then we will talk about Worlds Collide in totality this Saturday after it and WWE Money in the Bank go off the air. So first match on the card, it was supposed to be LWO against Octagon Jr., Aerostar, and Mr. Iguana. First note is Joaquin Wilde got pulled from the match as expected after suffering his concussion on Raw and replaced, as expected, I kind of just pulled the name out of my ass, I'll be honest with you, but got replaced by Lince Dorado. So Dorado is going to be with the other 2 LWO guys, obviously not Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee and Cruz del Toro in this match. Now, the AAA stars that I mentioned, Octagon Jr., Aerostar, Mr. Iguana, they were in attendance at NXT. All I can really say is that Mr. Iguana is incredible at first glance. And I'm also confused why he's not Senor Iguana. Maybe there's a reason. But I had never heard of or seen him before the WWE deal. This guy is aura personified. Apparently, the iguana on his hand is named Jessica, which is also incredible. But you just can't put a guy like that on TV and not give me more than that. I badly wanted him involved in something during the show, and they just didn't do it. And I'm like, you have a man dressed as an iguana who is also having on his arm an iguana sock puppet named Jessica. You show them, you name the dog, you name the animal, the hand sock puppet, whatever you want to call it. And that's it. I don't see Jessica in action. Like, that's what I want to see. So it popped me. I thought it was pretty funny. If you want to do some deeper dive reading, Google Octagon, Pentagon, AAA, and you'll understand the history between the Octagon character, the Pentagon character, why Penta is the way he is now. It's fascinating, to be honest with you. In terms of this match, I do think there are going to be opportunities on this show for AAA talent to go over. And this is one of them, especially now that Lince Dorado is in this match. But I just don't think this trio, from my understanding of where they exist in AAA, makes sense to go over some notable WWE talents, including Dragon Lee, who probably should be the one getting the fall here, as I would say the biggest star out of the 6. So I'm going to pick LWO to win, plus, Lince Dorado to win this match. It's just the move that makes the most sense. Again, based on some booking that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So we have Stephanie Vaquer and Lola Vice teaming against Chick Tormenta and Dice, I believe is how you say the name, and I apologize if I got that wrong. Stephanie Vaquer is not losing. She's the biggest star, arguably, on the entire card. I mean, Vikingo is amazing. He's the bigger star in Mexico, certainly. But she's the biggest WWE star on this card, and Lola Vice is no slouch the way she's getting booked in NXT. Chica Tormenta and Dice, I just don't see, from my understanding, again, of their prestige level, them being to the point where beating Vaquer, even if they were to pin Lola, makes any sense. So I'm going with the WWE women on this side. Vaquer and Vice get the dub. Legado del Fantasma will fight Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., Pagano, and Psycho Clown. Now, here is where I believe AAA gets its first win. Not so much because Legado del Fantasma is lesser comparatively, but it fits much better with the story they're telling on SmackDown, where Santos Escobar is trying to create opportunities for them. Angel is bought in, but Berto is extremely hesitant. That could be Berto walking out during this match. It could be Legado putting him in a position where they're not able to tag in and he gets angry at them coming out of it. But for storyline reasons, what makes the most sense by far is the AAA team winning this, probably with Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. getting the dub, I would assume. Don't forget, I mentioned previously, he is someone WWE wanted to sign outright, but they had some issues with either his name or his mask. I forget exactly what it was. And he winded up signing, I should say, with AAA. So I think the luchadors are the Mexican luchadors. Let me even clarify that further. The AAA luchadors, because they're all pretty much luchadors in this match, the AAA luchadors come out on top. Dr. Wagner Jr., or Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., Pagano, and Psycho Clown. NXT North American Championship, Ethan Page defending against Javon Evans, Laredo Kid, and Ray Phoenix in a 4-way match. Now, this was broken down on NXT, so let's go ahead and dive into everything that happened. There was a summit for this match on NXT that did not involve Phoenix, who supposedly had flight troubles. Page got big-time heat, angry over how often he already needs to defend the title. Laredo said he has no balls. Javon focused on getting revenge. Sean Legacy then came out, hoping that he fights someone other than Ethan for the title next week. Vanity Project from Evolve interrupted. They got Page's back for a brawl while promoting the inaugural men's title match. The Faces did Stereotopes as part of a wild pull-apart, and that is how the show opened. They learned backstage later that an 8-man had been booked, and Dragon Lee stepped up to be their partner. Now, given the significant youth in this segment, it probably over-delivered. Not a huge fan of Evolve getting so mixed into NXT, as you heard me say earlier, but in this specific case, it made sense so they could preview Worlds Collide and promote the title match. I remain impressed to the level at which Page consistently gets heat. I am glad he is still in NXT, despite all the call-ups. I'm sure he wants to be on the main roster. I know a lot of people want him on the main roster. He is working perfectly in NXT right now. Vic Joseph informed us that Ricky Saints, was basically diagnosed with a bruised larynx. Page bragged to Project that he took Saints' voice and Javon's smile, so they should focus on taking the masks of Laredo and Dragon. It's crazy how well Ethan and Project fit together. He's like the house dad for this faction. They're all such pieces of shit, but in the best possible way. So we got that 8-man. Evans, Laredo, Legacy, and Dragon against Page and Vanity Project. I could be wrong. I believe Dragon's entrance music got lyrics added to it. It sounded great either way. Maybe it's just that we hear it so rarely that I forgot. The Faces all flew until Laredo got straight flattened by an Ethan boot. Dragon got the hot tag. Unfortunately, Laredo's legs got caught on the middle rope trying a tope suicida. He flipped straight out of the ring, luckily onto his back. Project squashed Legacy with Page adding a pull-up power slam for a 3-way broken fall. Evans hit a great tope con hero. Laredo atoned with a springboard moonsault. Dragon murked the Kid with a hanging double stomp and hit Operation Dragon Destino for the win. Tremendous 8-man match, a bit clunky in parts, just given the inexperience of the heels and Laredo's botch, but the energy and excitement that was generated from all 8 guys totally overcame that. Also a real nice preview to get you amped up for Worlds Collide. 3.75 stars, B+. Now, in terms of this match at Worlds Collide, again, Page, Evans, Kid, and Phoenix. It is really tough to predict a title change. I know a lot of people thought when Saints dropped the title and Page took it, well, clearly it's because he's going into this match and he's going to be a transitional champion. But who exactly is he transitioning to? I would be shocked if someone from AAA came in and won this title, meaning Laredo Kid. Phoenix, could he do a short jaunt in NXT? Yeah, he could, but then he would ultimately have to lose. And that doesn't totally fit together. And Javon would make a ton of sense to take it from Paige. It would also give a notable highlight to the show. And if Javon is going to beat anyone for this title, it really should be Ethan. But I also don't think he should beat him in a 4-way where he pins, let's say, Laredo Kid instead of Paige himself. So I have Ethan Page retaining the title here. And I'm going to say that he pins Laredo Kid because of it. Probably a situation where Javon does all the work. He throws Javon out of the ring, pins Laredo, gets the 1-2-3, and advances with the championship. But I am excited about this match, no question. And the main event of Worlds Collide is going to be the AAA Mega Championship, Hijo del Vikingo against Chad Gable. Now, Vikingo was in attendance with the title at NXT, and if memory serves, same thing at Raw on Monday night, but nothing really happened in either case. I do find it really interesting the way the booking has been with Chad Gable and El Grande Americano, because you'll remember El Grande Americano got into it with Vikingo at WrestleMania. And it would have made a lot of sense for Americano to be in this match going after the Mega Championship. Gable doesn't really get many opportunities in WWE, so he would have made a lot more sense in the triple threat with AJ Styles and CM Punk to earn a spot in Money in the Bank. And I'm not quite sure why they decided to go with it in this direction. But having Gable over there and the matchup in general with Vikingo, what they may be able to do together. I mean, look, with 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches and Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria on that card, it's going to be difficult to be the match of the day. It is quite possible by the time Saturday ends that Vikingo and Gable is the match of the day. The ceiling of this is legitimately 5 stars. Like, they can get there. Will they without story and without significant build? I'm not saying there's no story, but the story is very thin. Will they get there? Probably not, but they can get an A match. They can get an A+ match. And I just have a feeling this is going to be a total, unabashed
Banger.
So expectations are high. I do have Vikingo retaining the mega title, which he just won, by the way, from Alberto Del Rio in a situation that was spoiled by WWE on Raw 2 weeks ago. So don't forget that. In terms of a pre-show expectation grade for Worlds Collide, it's difficult because there's really no telling what a lot of those undercard matches are going to be like. How much time are they going to get? How much are they going to be allowed to do? WWE talent working with AAA talent. And yes, I know that talent are signed to contracts, but technically WWE doesn't even own AAA yet. They're still in the process of kind of coming to that agreement. So I'm a little wary right now that it's going to be some crazy banger show. It's on YouTube for free. It's not on Peacock or Netflix or anything like that. So they're giving it away. I just don't know exactly how this will deliver. So I'm going to be extremely conservative coming into this. I'm going to say an 86 out of 100, the highest level of B, but it could easily get into B+ range. Maybe a 90 would be the ceiling, lower level A- territory, because I just don't see this being an incredible card. But those 2 matches, the 4-way for the North American Championship and Vikingo and Gable for the AAA Mega Championship, those could be absolute, like I said,
Banger.
After
Banger.
And hopefully they're the co-main events of this show. So again, 86, a B out of 100, 86 out of 100, a B. That's probably the better way to say it. That is my expectation going into this show. Now, before we move on, Silver King does need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Over head. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We are a free show. We are an ad-free show. We would greatly appreciate your financial support as we continue to episode 750 and beyond. Let's shift over to AEW. This was a really unique week for AEW in that we're being forced pretty much to cover 6 hours in one sitting, given Fyter Fest was run as a 4-hour special Wednesday night. So we're going to switch up the format of this breakdown just a little bit. Let's cover Collision from Saturday first. Then we'll do Fyter Fest as a unit. Regarding that collision from last Saturday, only 2 of 7 matches, 29%, were storyline relevant in the moment. Both of them were title qualifiers. So basically, if you don't count the title qualifiers, because there wasn't anything behind them, there were no look forward to matches on that show. And it makes for a difficult viewing experience. So on that show, Mina Shirakawa beat Sky Blue. Mina hit a nice flying sling blade and a glamour driver. Julia Hart attacked after the bell. Toni Storm saved. It was fine. Claudio Castagnoli beat Commander in 8 minutes to advance to the 4-way international title match. AEW provided a recap from a past bout between them just to give us more reason for this happening. I appreciated that, even if it was thin and kind of old, unremarkable bout. Mascarade Dorada beat Hechicero in a 14-minute main event qualifier, easily the match of the night, which was interesting given it didn't involve any AEW talent. Dorada won with a Poison Rana and a beautiful shooting star press. Kazuchika Okada beat Anthony Bowens in a 10-minute eliminator match. Bowens got this match after losing to Ricochet 1 week prior. He's only beaten Max Caster, Blake Christian, and Lee Johnson since being repackaged. The only reason this made a bit of sense was to put Bowens against a notable name, with the eliminator stipulation probably not mattering since Okada is going to lose the title next month anyway. But I'd have much preferred Bowens get built up into a deserving eliminator challenger first. But AEW just refuses to do that. Don Callis' family beat Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Tomohiro Ishii. No real reason for this match unless Kyle Fletcher wanting Adam Cole's title is the reason. Neither of them. Cole wasn't even involved here, and I don't think Fletcher was either, if memory serves. Daddy Magic was amping up Daniel Garcia when Callis and Lance Archer interrupted, saying he was listening to a guy with no real experience or success. Callis tried to recruit him. Garcia said he didn't want to listen to an old man. Callis told him to think about it. Garcia with Callis would actually be interesting, but they've overloaded the family with a bunch of losers. If this faction was just Fletcher, Konosuke Takeshita, and Josh Alexander, then putting Garcia in there would have been incredible. He'd make a great fourth. But you've thrown all this garbage in there. Brian Cage, who I guess is injured, and Lance Archer and Roppongi Vice. And it's just like, he's still recruiting people, and people actually want to go there. No, they don't. Let's be honest. FTR with Stokely Hathaway issued an open challenge to a CMLL tag team. It was funny that Stoke quoted EI, like from Nelly, but it was a really boring promo. Atlantis Jr. and another guy. There was no bottom third nameplate, so I didn't fully catch his name. It might have been Templario. They happened to be backstage, I guess. FTR got a lot of heat, which is great for them. But man, this thing dragged. They wouldn't let the luchadors talk. They kept denigrating them as nobodies. Then FTR and they brawled. The positive is that AEW did something to build a reason for this match happening. The negative is that it was the most boilerplate thing you could possibly imagine. LFI beat AR Fox in Top Flight. Why? Because, there was a time when I wondered whether Rush's brother Dragon Lee made the right decision going to WWE, thinking he might have been doing more in AEW by this juncture because Rush at a point was getting pushed. But the way Rush is getting booked now, it actually wouldn't have been any better. It wouldn't matter. They're basically equal but different. The heels attacked after the match. Mike Bailey and Commander saved. Talk about a mid-quintet of faces. Gates of Agony squashed a couple jobbers. They got a brief promo package before the match. Interesting that they're still the ones on TV, despite losing the street fight to Learning Tree. I like their look and stuff. They've never actually been given anything. Nothing real, nothing for us to believe or care about. Max Caster was shown getting a group of VIP fans to chant for him. He made them sign a document proclaiming him the best wrestler alive, but then he ran out of the room before he was supposed to take pictures. And it's like, okay, he's getting this over, the best wrestler alive chant. Like, fans are doing it, but where is this going? Like, what's the point of Caster being booked this way and doing this gimmick? Like, what's he going to become coming out of this? I just don't see the end. I can't see the forest through the trees here. So that wraps up Collision from 2 weeks ago. Like I told you, a completely unremarkable show. Let's dive into AEW Fyter Fest, which was in place of Dynamite with Collision on the back end Wednesday. AEW opened the show with a bunch of talent arrivals in succession, exactly like WWE does. It was really odd having them do that after the intro and not cold at the start of the show. The backstage audio for the entire program was horrendous, painful even. And the last note I had, there was only one real women's match across 4 hours of TV. Thekla did get a squash on top of it, but it's flat out ridiculous. One real match, a grand total of 13 minutes of women's action in 4 hours. Conversely, I wanted to give credit to the Denver crowd. I say conversely because I just gave a lot of criticism. This crowd was insanely hot for the first 2 hours of the show. They did cool off a tad, but they still remained loud for the duration of the 4 hours. So kudos to them. As we do get into this AEW breakdown, I did want to be fair in my criticism because I've been heavily critical of WWE's pace of schedule from the late spring into the summer. And for AEW, in addition to the monthly pay-per-views and the specials that they're doing and all this, they're doing 3 special TV shows in succession. 2 of them are 4-hour blocks on Wednesday nights, plus Grand Slam in Arena Mexico 2 weeks from now. So frankly, it's not only WWE that's crushing my spirit and my free time. AEW is doing the same thing to a slightly lesser extent, but they're nevertheless still doing it. In terms of storyline relevance, 6 of 11 matches across these 4 hours were relevant and actually developed. You could stretch that to 7 of 11 if you want to be generous. Better than usual for a week of AEW TV, but it still left a lot to be desired when you're running some of these random bouts for no real reason on a specially branded show, including one of them that opened up the second show that was only booked a couple hours earlier that just happened to happen. It was extremely odd. Dynamite was strong the first 2 hours. Collision, it felt like an afterthought, as it usually does. Let's get to breaking down Fyter Fest. Jon Moxley fought Mark Briscoe in a non-title match. Briscoe made this challenge on Saturday, stating that he only wanted to fight Mox for pride after his kid saw him get choked out last week. That was a good reason for a match. Surprised it was not an eliminator, though. Remember how a few minutes ago I said Fyter Fest opened with a walk-in arrival? Well, Mox and Death Riders were one of the groups that walked in. Yet, when the bell rang for this match and they were getting introduced, they walked into the building again. So they either left and came back or they just messed up. And I think they probably just messed up. Briscoe bladed because, of course, he did. They countered finishers before Mox caught Froggy Bow with a rear naked choke and an armbar. Wheeler Yuta interfered for a second F-word chant in 20 minutes to open the show. Briscoe hit a J Driller for a delayed false finish. Mox did a stomp and basically got caught on a 3 count. That was not called when Briscoe countered a bulldog choke. So Mox just turned over, put the choke back in, and the referee stopped the match. It was a dynamite match, no pun intended, that again ended in super weak fashion, like clockwork, when it comes to Mox and the Death Riders. It can be as hot as it wants to be. And then all of a sudden, the finish comes, and you're like, oh, that's right. Mox wins. 3.75 stars B+. Swerve Strickland backstage at Dynamite last week reiterated that he owned up to, getting what he deserved in the Hangman Page feud, clarifying that didn't make them friends. So Will Ospreay got in his face, saying the title doesn't belong in a briefcase, it belongs around Hangman's waist because he's the best of them. Swerve disagreed. They had a scuffle. They got separated. Ospreay yelled, same team, same team. Swerve is in the right here, if we're being honest. He doesn't owe Hangman or AEW anything just because Ospreay wants to be a good guy and rally the troops. So firmly in Swerve's camp here. Ospreay started Dynamite this week wearing a hat despite supposedly getting a haircut, which I actually wanted to see. He said that he understands Hangman Page and Swerve hate each other, but how about just putting that aside until they get the title back, and then they can kill each other afterward? Kind of reasonable ask. Ospreay said he and the other babyfaces are responsible for AEW having momentum, while Mox being champion is the reason AEW sucks right now. Certainly not the line that he should have used. Then he said he would take a bullet for Swerve, but not above AEW. So he wanted to fight him next week, which I was really confused by the logic and reasoning there. I guess Ospreay's idea is to beat up Swerve so that way he'll listen to him and side with Hangman. Like fighting each other will make Swerve trust a different person. The only way that works is if they get attacked by Death Riders for a DQ and Hangman saves both of them. And maybe that's the booking, but on the surface, it's kind of strange. So I thought this segment ended here. Instead, music hit and Ospreay's like, who the hell is this? Because it was unrecognizable. Turns out the opening segment of Dynamite had Crew confront Will. They did get legit heat, which was kind of a surprise. Lio Rush challenged Ospreay, saying he was the worst thing about AEW. Will bragged about AEW having sold out this arena. It was a 3,500 seat ballroom. I would guess there was 3,200 seats, maybe even less because of the stage setup. He said, we'll fight on the back half of the show. I suppose this counts as a built match, but holy shit, was this random as hell. Then MJF confronts Ospreay backstage, saying he should stay out of everyone else's business. He told Will that he shouldn't want Hangman to win the title since he can't beat him. He should let Page and Strickland destroy each other. Ospreay said MJF only thinks about himself while he thinks about AEW. and MJF can't beat Hangman either. To be fair, MJF was giving Will advice. He wasn't really thinking about himself. MJF then mentioned Will's son. He got shoved. Hurt Syndicate showed up, overwhelmed with numbers, and it ended. I enjoy how MJF remains integrated with the top stars despite doing his own thing. That's positive. And getting Lashley individually involved with some of the bigger names gives me hope they're actually going to push him in singles after they drop the tag team titles. So fingers crossed that actually happens. So we had Ospreay beat Leo. Not exactly sure how long this match went, but it was way too long given the disparity in prestige level and talent. Consecutive Oz cutters didn't end it. Ospreay did a handspring tope and a phenomenal forearm, only for Leo to counter him with a frog splash. Leo then tried to use a regular necklace wrapped around his wrist. The referee took it away and Will won with Styles Clash. The booking of this was ridiculous. It was literally just like, please keep watching our show. Here's a spot fest. There is no world in which Leo, one half of a loser tag team, should get that much on Will. And there's no reason why the finish should have been Leo gets distracted because he tries to cheat with a necklace and the referee takes it, and then Ospreay wins because of that. Ospreay should have beaten his ass in 7 minutes, gotten out of there, done. And then get this. After the match is over, no joke, Action Andretti attacks afterward, and they completely lay out Ospreay 2-on-1. So the best wrestler in the world, according to some, got beaten down by a couple low-card tag team jabronis, and he needs Hangman Page to save him from them. Now, if they had done this exact booking with some legitimate singles wrestler on this brand who's a heel, or the Don Callis family, or someone with strength and might, where you go, oh man, Will got his ass kicked by two legitimate dudes, this would have played. Having him get his ass kicked by Action Andretti and Leo Rush was an absolute joke. Can you imagine if Stone Cold Steve Austin got his ass kicked by what I can't even think. What, Hurricane Helms and Hornswoggle? Like, I don't even know who to pick, right? Now you're going to say, well, Silver King, wait, Hurricane Helms beat The Rock. The Rock was a heel. Okay. And he didn't really get his ass beat. He got his licks in. And then, of course, they had the match and it was fun and everything happened there. But I'm going back in the day. That was comedy. This is serious. And again, Will is a baby face and he's getting his ass kicked by Action Andretti and Leo Rush, and he needs to be saved from those two guys?
0.0. 0.0, Mr. Blutarski.
This was a joke. I'm sorry. So after Ospreay left, Hangman cut a promo promising he would return the favor and have his back going forward. He said that he's his own man and doesn't need help to win the AEW title, either from Ospreay or from a terrible person like Swerve. Page then promised he would never need or accept Strickland's help, but he would win the title at All In and make it a night for himself and fans to remember. Mox surprised behind him, but didn't attack. Others circled. Ospreay stumbled out with 2 chairs, and the heels left. So Moxley just standing there, it was super dumb, almost as if he was trying to show he's not scared of him. But why would he be scared of him? He has the numbers advantage. Other than that, the segment worked. Hangman was really strong on the mic. I was glad he was so adamant against getting help from Swerve. Obviously, we know that will happen and he'll get the big pop on the show, but playing it this way with Hangman, it does make sense. The Ospreay Swerve part of it, that remains strange, but we will see what happens next week and then we'll go from there. There was a full highlight package for Mystico, which was arguably the best of these that AEW has probably ever put together, actually breaking down a non-roster wrestler. Syndicate opened hour 2 with Lashley giving his former home of Denver a thumbs down since he now lives in Texas. MVP said that AEW is where the best wrestle.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And the tag team champions are the best in the world with no legitimate challengers. MJF said he wants the AEW title back, which means he'll have to start wrestling again. So he'll go through the best in CMLL, Mystico. He got nationalistic and then the promo kind of ended. So Bailey, Commander, and Kevin Knight interrupt with MVP making 3 references that no one in the crowd understood. Commander was angry that MJF disrespected Mexico. He actually spoke on the mic, maybe for the first time. Bailey said something in some language. I don't even know what it was. MVP laughed at him. Then Knight challenged the Syndicate, which MVP appropriately denied, given they haven't earned it yet. I mean, they literally had an advertised trios match scheduled on the show. So how did that challenge make even a lick of sense? And here we go with another random tag team probably winning one match and getting a title shot. That was my thought process. MVP keeps coming out week after week and basically saying, This tag team division sucks. We don't have any real challengers. Well, you know what, dude? It does suck. And you don't have any real challengers. Like, it's literally the truth.
I think you may have something here.
Rather than AEW actually build the division and create real teams that can contend, they have FTR doing random stuff with none of the baby faces coming together to make a play for the titles. And don't forget, there are also trios championships that got taken off the Death Riders, and they just kind of exist. There's no trios working their way into number one contenderships, trying to go after those straps either. Death Riders even, they lost them, and they're like, oh, okay. They had no desire to get them back. Shouldn't they want those championships back? The only part of this that hit for me was MJF explaining why he's decided to get back in the ring, noting the necessity of doing so in order to challenge for the AEW title after All In. Now, if Syndicate helps him to that end, that's going to make a lot of sense in terms of how the faction benefits him. To this point, though, it still remains to be seen how MJF benefits the other three at all, because it has not benefited them at all yet. He did, there was the one match where he helped them retain the titles, but that was a match they should have dominated anyway. So what is the value add for MJF with them? And what is the value add with them for MJF? And right now, I just don't completely see it. They're going to need to explain. Bayley, Commander, and Kevin Knight fought LFI. This was chaos for better and worse, mostly better. There was an incredible springboard crucifix bomb by Dralistico on Commander. Crazy high impact. Really, it was the move, not just of the night. I think it was the move of the entire week. AEW, WWE, doesn't really matter. The faces hit Time Adventure and UFO to beat Beast Mortos, because Beast Mortos always loses. And Commander did a great tightrope tope splash onto the other's ringside. This was an absolute blast from bell to bell. Borderline B+ A- match. The faces drew some significant reactions, despite mostly being a random team. So when this ends, MVP comes out. He says, "You've all impressed me enough to earn a trios match against the entire syndicate next week. Lashley and Shelton Benjamin attacked. MJF did not. That delay allowed the three heels to all get taken down with ease, and they got hit with pendulum splashes ringside. I know Syndicate is a trio, but you would think they actually have the trios titles the way this was booked. At least these guys aren't getting a title match for no reason. That's a positive. And MJF is getting in the ring on TV. That's another positive. But like, why is this happening? Why is no one going after the actual tag team titles? That was what the segment set up. And now they're doing a trios match. Are they going to like pin Shelton Benjamin and then get a title match coming out of this? Like who? Bayley and Kevin Knight? Is that really what we're doing? International Championship. Kenny Omega defending against Brody King, Claudio, and Dorada. This main evented Dynamite and opened Collision. King got busted open, possibly hard way over his eyes in the early portion of the match. He murked Omega into the corner with a Death Valley driver, putting Dorada's body into him. Omega had King in One Winged Angel setup. Claudio capitalized with a flying Doomsday-style European uppercut. Omega ate a Poison Rana from Dorada, who also took down Brody with a pop-up Hurricane Rana. Claudio swung him and hit Neutralizer in a couple impressive spots, simply due to Brody's size. Dorada did an incredible springboard shooting star press outside from the second rope, only for Omega to catch a Hurricane Rana, twisting him upwards for One Winged Angel and the 1-2-3 to retain the title. This was an exceptional match that blew away every other segment on this 4-hour show. Pay-per-view quality on free TV. Dorada was the clear MVP, completely raising the rent with the other guys, but it should not be ignored that Claudio was excellent in his own right. Omega was actually the least valuable of the four when it came to working the actual match. That's shocking on one hand, but it's actually understandable because he's the one who needed to be protected as much as possible for the biggest show of the year coming up. 4.25 stars and an A. Kazuchika Okada confronted Omega after the bell. They shoved their titles in one another's faces before finally coming to blows. It was slightly funny because Okada was wearing this really baggy suit. Okada punched Omega in the abdomen, but they each escaped each other's finisher to end it. I've said this before, Omega is recovered. He's not sensitive in that area. I get that it's wrestling and such, but it's not like a neck injury that lingers or can be devastatingly damaged again. I'm just probably thinking too much into it. Great confrontation between the two, building hype for All In. I hope they promo and add more modern story to it for those who are completely not familiar with their 4-match kind of series in New Japan. Their long-term feud is arguably the greatest of all time. And the expectation, we'll talk about it in a little bit, was that this match would, of course, get booked. We've been talking about it for a while. Storm and Shirakawa beat Hart and Blue. Mercedes Moné watched from ringside, sitting at a table with a steak and red wine in front of her, and she didn't touch it the entire time. It would have been fun to see her like actually indulging, picking at it. The faces nearly kissed mid-match because, of course, before doing stereo hip attacks, Storm then won with a cross-face chicken wing, which I love as an addition to her arsenal, just given the throwback nature of the character. Storm then motorboated Shirakawa after the bell. Yeah, really. They can't help themselves. Crowd was hyped for the match. They loved the babyface pairing. Oh, Storm also consumed the meal that Monet didn't touch. She spit some of it out, which frankly was disgusting. I don't really know what else to say. This was the booking. This was the storyline. FTR fought Atlantis Jr. and Templario. I guess I did get his name right. FTR won by cheating, similar to how New Day won the titles in WWE. Then the heels wasted a good 3 to 5 minutes on the mic, literally saying absolutely nothing. AEW must have needed to kill time or something. Otherwise, it didn't make any sense why they had the mic. Paragon confronted Garcia backstage, hoping they can at least respect each other enough to go after the Callis family together in an 8-man match. That was the setup. Solid enough. Callis later accepted the match and made an additional convoluted challenge to Bandito and the Outrunners on top of it. He introduced Hechicero as, I guess, like a tangential member of the family. Pretty random. So we had Fletcher, Takeshita, and Hechicero beat Bandito and Outrunners in a random-ass match. This thrown-together team got the best of the family, while the worst were fed to the people who actually challenged them on the show. Really weird. Oh yeah, Outrunners wore lucha masks here. This was better than you might expect, but frankly, it was too long and exhausting at this point in the show. When you hear Tony Schiavone screaming that everything is incredible for 3.5 hours, it really loses effectiveness. Paragon and Garcia fought Alexander, Roppongi Vice, and Archer in the main event. And I gotta say, AEW had gall to, number one, put this in the final match of a 4-hour show, but then overrun. It went beyond 4 hours for no reason whatsoever. Folks, Silver King, your boy, I'm washed. I just needed to go to bed and relax. I don't go to bed at 12 o'clock. I stay up late, but I needed to be in bed relaxing, not recapping wrestling at midnight on a Wednesday, not midnight, 12:07 a.m., because they decided to do an overrun. It was ridiculous.
Off is a direction you can fuck.
Anyway, tagging was non-existent. Adam Cole mercifully ended it by lowering the boon on Rocky Romero. Garcia stared at the title after the bell. It feels like they're going to do a multi-man match for the TNT Championship at All In. This was now 4+ hours of Schiavone yelling, and I swear I had a cluster headache coming out of the show. I kind of feel it right now, just going over it again. The match was good. It was overindulgent, as was most of the second half of Fyter Fest. Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford had previously attacked Anna Jay backstage. When they went to throw her off the stage, Ty Mello returned with a weapon shot to Ford before security guards immediately separated all of them. So Ty is basically taking Harley Cameron's place while she's out injured, which absolutely makes sense because she used to partner with Anna back in the day. There was great reaction upon her return. I would say somewhat unexpected, just given how long she had been out and the fact that she really has accomplished nothing in AEW. But it was nice to see her back. I loved her face paint. I would never wear face paint if I was a wrestler. I'd be way too worried about it getting in my eyes. But those Brazilian flag stripes across her eyes looked awesome. I love when others wear face paint. And this also kind of made it clear these women tag team titles probably coming. But again, if you're getting 13 minutes across 4 hours of TV without a tag team division, then what are you doing adding another women's title to this company? I don't get it. Thekla got a way too short highlight package before her in-ring debut. The entrance was nails, though, heavy metal. The vibes were right. She squashed Lady Frost with a spear and death trap submission, which is why I said there was only really one women's match on the show. But even if you said 2, that's 2 out of 11, 13 minutes total across 4 hours of TV. It was a solid debut from her overall debut. If you kind of erase last week's absurd moment with Jamie Hayter, Thekla attacked in the post-match, which led Queen Aminata out to save. I'm guessing she tripped or something and fell because the crowd made a noise and we didn't get to see it. Aminata later cut a promo saying AEW is where the best wrestle.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And she wouldn't let Thekla make a name for herself there. I guess she's not doing the gimmick with Serena Deeb anymore. Probably Aminata's best promo in AEW, given she almost never gets chances to actually speak for herself. Ricochet cut a backstage promo saying he was going to be evaluating talent all night to determine who to put in his group. He wants people who will follow and serve him in his goal to win gold. Stepped down from his recent promos. Also odd that he's watching people all show, but they did this more than halfway into the 4-hour program as opposed to at the front of it. And he only came out for one match the entire show. Christian Cage and Nick Wayne were backstage without Kip Sabian in sight. Christian criticized Wayne for not winning New Japan's Best of the Super Juniors, but admitted he had a grueling schedule. Then Cage turned and said Wayne doesn't deserve a night off as his son, so he put him in a title match. Wayne thought that, okay, it's going to be light work again, but Cage said it was a 4-way match, and Sabian was working on another surprise for them. So the ROH TV title was on the line randomly for no reason whatsoever. Wayne against AR Fox, Sammy Guevara, and Lee Johnson. So yeah, it was light work at the end of the day. This was the only match, like I said, we saw Ricochet in. He was on commentary. My thought was, if he recruits any of these 4 guys, it's an L. He was rough on commentary, despite being much better on the mic recently. This was just not a great night for him. The crowd was all in with AR Fox. They were actually chanting for him, which was pretty cool. Wayne beat him with a fisherman's driver to retain the title. I have no idea why it wasn't Johnson who took the fall. As I said with the Outrunners tag team match, this was total burnout. You didn't need this on the card. Caster demanded the referee sign his best wrestler alive petition. When he refused, Powerhouse Hobbs came out, squashed him. Bowens backstage declared June the Pride of Pro Wrestling Month, challenged Fletcher to a match next week. The reason being that Fletcher also reinvented himself. Extremely thin. I'm glad they're doing the Pride of Pro Wrestling thing. Again, get rid of 5-tool player. It's stupid. And lastly, they promised a big, huge announcement from Tony Khan in the main event of the program. And that huge announcement was Omega Okada 5 being official for All In. And yes, it's an important announcement, no doubt about it. It is not one that should have been made on a Wednesday night, head-to-head with the Stanley Cup, 10 minutes before midnight. Tease, we have a huge announcement next week, a big match being set for All In. Do it at the opening of Dynamite. Promote it, get some interviews ready, publish those after the fact. That's how you do PR for a match like this. You don't announce it at 11:50 p.m. Eastern going head-to-head with a major sporting event. I mean, you just got to be smarter. When they were promoting a contract signing for Summer Blockbuster, which is the 4-hour stretch next week, Nigel McGuinness made this huge deal. There's going to be a video package for this match. Well, number one, how could he know that if it was just announced on the show moments earlier? And why would you make a big deal about a video package? Of course there's going to be a video package. It's Okada and Omega. They're friends with New Japan. They have the rights. Yes, there's going to be a video package. So look, that wraps up Fyter Fest. Like I said, a mixed bag, right? The Dynamite portion was strong. The Omega match was incredible. It was probably the best match of the week. I want to say WWE, AEW, NXT. I think it was the best match of the week on television. The best move of the week, like I said, was in the Luchador match or the situation with Drilistico, and I think it was Commander. So there were a lot of really bright spots on the show. Hangman Page's promo was solid. A lot of really good stuff. But man, 4 hours was ridiculous as a viewer. The second half of the show was weak as hell. And there were a couple confusing plot lines and storylines here that maybe they all just come together next week and we say, oh, okay, it makes sense they did that. But as of right now, coming out of this, wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the 4 hours. I would say there were 2 hours of greatness and then 2 hours of, oh yeah, we have 4 hours to fill. So that wraps up NXT, AEW, and that WWE AAA Worlds Collide preview for you this week. Again, a reminder, we have your WWE Money in the Bank Ultimate Preview waiting in the podcast feed, and we will be back on Saturday with a WWE Money in the Bank and WWE AAA Worlds Collide Instant Analysis podcast as soon as those shows go off the air. Just one episode. Just want to be clear. One episode on Saturday night, and then this coming Tuesday, episode 750 of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky for episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can also send in questions and comments for the show. And on Twitter, you can vote in pre- and post-show polls for WWE Money in the Bank and WWE AAA Worlds Collide. Don't forget, here at Getting Over,
It's all about Defy.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis every week. Again, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. This is the Silver King signing off. and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.